Welcome back to Aetheral space, you stink bugs.
How dare you call them stink bugs? They're little employees.
You're right, my little employees.
Welcome back, guys, and thanks for tuning into.
You are my employee.
Oh my god, we need to have like, I guess you are my little pog champ, but it's the Yoko Taro face.
I think I said like a bit of Darman.
Oh. What is up, Darman fam? I guess you are my little employees.
Anyway, what are we here for?
Right.
It's not to talk about Darman
Yes,
or PogChamp.
I was gonna say welcome back to Aetheral Space 3.8. If you've been tuning in, then you'll remember that last time we got a little bit more of a look into how Ruth feels about things and kind of her side. We got to see how she is when she's frustrated. She was upset with Skipper for not sharing his secrets. She caused a little trouble at a bar, runs into Dragon, they interact a bit, and we not only see a gentler side of Dragon and a more vulnerable side of Ruth, but we also get just a peek into her backstory, knowing about a former member of the crew named North, who apparently died. But I have secret theory that maybe he is alive and betrayed them, or maybe it is just to show that she lost someone. I'm not sure, but I'm curious if he'll ever come up again or not.
He has been mentioned previously,
And,
I think a few arcs ago, in like one line.
I am also worried. The fact that there's a guy named North implies the existence of three brothers named East, West, and South.
You let my brother die.
the four generals of the cardinal directions. But yeah, so that was a really good chapter, and we've got another one back for you. We're going to record this back to back on the same day, and we're going to hopefully start racking up a few more recordings over winter break. Also, I would like to give a special shout out to Hunter Spatafora. He's been listening along with us for a long time, and he almost always replies to our questions. And I promise everyone who replies, we read them, and we just really appreciate your support on this series, Hunter. And of course, everyone else who's been watching along, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. We're always down to talk theories or talk about the characters in the Aetheral Space channel on our Discord, so please hit us up there. Tanhony will be there immediately.
Yes, I will not confirm
Right.
or deny anything, though.
Yeah, he won't confirm or deny anything. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But I do have it on good record that Dragon may or may not be one of the main characters.
You weren't meant
So
to say that.
don't tell anyone I shared that. No, please, Tan.
Now you have to go into the story to make amends.
I'm Dragon. That's me teleporting into the story.
Okay,
Dragon. You should add a scene where someone calls a character a little employee.
Hold on a second.
Hello. There was no cut there. Okay, so are we ready to get into this?
Yeah, sure. Kick it off.
Sorry, there's a little phlegm in my throat.
Peter.
You've got some sweet digs here, pal, said Skipper, stretching as he looked out over the gymnasium Deer had led them to. The room was gigantic, with pretty much every kind of exercise equipment under the sun making an appearance. Sound echoed in the space the way it does only when sports are involved. Balls slamming against walls, again and again and again. Security officers ran through the gym, making their way from drill to drill. A lot of repeating words, wow. The whole thing was like a well-oiled machine. Dragon rubbed his eyes. He hadn't exactly got much sleep last night. Chasing Ruth around the city will do that to a person. So he didn't much appreciate Skipper dragging him out of bed early in the morning to do some asinine training. Is it really alright for us to use this stuff? He yawned, grasping for any excuse to abandon this effort and go back to bed. Deer simply stood stiff as ever, hands clasped behind his back. You're assisting us with our investigation. Anything that will help bolster your efforts, we are happy to provide. Dragon raised an eyebrow. Usually the word investigation implied some kind of mental effort, not the kind of thing that would require you to work out. You didn't see detectives in the stories lifting weights between cases. Well, except for Ivan the Muscle Man, but that was his gimmick. You're a good guy, buddy, Skipper said, patting a hand on Deer's shoulder, a gesture that didn't seem to be appreciated, judging by the chief's face. Apart from the whole oppression of the masses thing, I bet we could be good pals. Deer made a truly heroic effort not to roll his eyes. Of course. Now then, Skipper said, stepping forward. He flexed the fingers of his organic hand, producing a series of clicks as his joints exerted themselves. His mechanical hand clenched itself into a fist silently. We've got some learning to do, kiddo. Dragon sighed and stepped forward. He'd already learnt that going against Skipper with things like this didn't go well. Skipper always got his way, sooner or later. And what are we a-learning, then? He said, his voice as scathing a monotone as he could manage. Glad you asked, kiddo. said Skipper, flashing a grin. He looked past Dragon, towards where Deer was standing. "You might wanna move back there a little, champ." Deer didn't budge. "I think I'll survive," he said. Skipper blinked in surprise, but the expression was quickly overridden by a carefree shrug. "If you say so." Then he pointed up towards the ceiling. Already knowing what was coming, Dragon winced, resisted the urge to drop to the ground. There was a sound like a gunshot from Skipper's extended finger, and a moment later the room shook, dust billowing down from the ceiling. A chorus of alarmed shouting rang out from among the officers that had been using the gymnasium, and even Deer had to put a hand against the wall to keep himself upright. Dragon glanced up towards the ceiling. Indeed, there was a huge dent up there where Skipper's heartbeat shotgun had made contact. Recovering himself, Deer shot a glance at Skipper. "Was that really necessary?" he growled. Skipper smiled innocently. "You can't learn this kind of stuff without seeing it firsthand, champ. First rule of teaching." Excuse me. Deer's glare intensified. "If you'd asked," he said slowly, doing his best to stuff down his anger, "we could have provided a training dummy, rather than watch you inflict property damage." Skipper waved him off with a flap of his new hand. "What's done is done. Anyways, I'm not talking to you, so shush. Mr. Adrian, what do you think?" Dragon kept looking up at the dent in the ceiling, not that impressed. "I've seen this before. What exactly am I supposed to be learning?" With a sigh, Skipper put a hand on Dragon's shoulder and steered him a short distance away from Deer's watching eyes. "Listen, kiddo," he said, voice hushed. "You took that guy down, Sam Eduardo Amberman or whatever. That's great. That's fantastic. I know it is." Dragon couldn't prevent us. I know it is. Dragon couldn't prevent a smug smirk from crossing his face. "But you still kinda almost died doing it." The smirk died as well. "Well, that's because..." Skipper snapped his fingers. Yeah, I know. It's because I didn't teach you all you needed to know. You got lucky down on Yaslov, but from what I've looked up, this citizen guy is serious business, yeah?" Looked up? Dragon frowned. Where did he get that information? "So," Skipper said, snapping his fingers again. Clearly he was trying to turn it into some kind of endearing tick. "I'm gonna go ahead and teach you how to be a badass like me." "Wow, thanks." Skipper grinned. "No problemo." He took a step back, hands on his hips. "Tell me, Mr. Adrian, how is it you think I perform my heartbeat shotguns?" "No clue." "Guess!" Skipper looked like a child whose parent wasn't playing along with their game. Dragon sighed. "Well, he said, scratching his head, "I guess you use Aether to force the air around you into a certain shape, then release that hold with explosive force." For a moment, Skipper paled at that explanation, but he quickly recovered himself. He shook his head. That's a good try, kiddo, but no cigar. The clue is in the name." Dragon put a hand to his chin, ignoring the states of Deer and some of the other security officers. Stares. "I suppose," he said slowly, brain racing through possibilities even as the words were leaving his mouth, "the noise your attacks make..." "The noise my heartbeat shotguns make?" Dragon tried to prevent himself from cringing at Skipper's earnestness, but failed miserably. "I'm not saying that. The noise your attacks make, I assume, aren't consistent with the damage they do, or the area that they damage. It's like a gunshot, no matter how the attack lands. And the name, are you manipulating sound somehow?" Again, the snap of the fingers. "Correctamundo. And, Mr. Hadrian, what sound do I use for this purpose? You can do it. The clue's in the name." Dragon rolled his eyes. "Your heartbeat, obviously. Don't patronize. Correctamundo 2 times, kiddo. Every beat of my big ol' heart is like reloading a pistol, you know?" Dragon hated to admit it, but that actually sounded very useful. The more Skipper's heart beat, the more he could attack. Oh, so he has to raise his adrenaline to the limit. What is your limit, Skipper? But if that's true, that means in theory, he could fire off like up to 120 a minute. Which in turn meant that the more he exerted himself, the more powerful he became. Ironically, he was probably capable of more destruction when he was tired than otherwise. Wait, what? When you're tired, your heartbeat would beat less.
Well, it means like he'd exerted himself.
Oh, I see. He spoke up, hand still on his chin. "Why don't you just drink coffee then? That way your heart rate will go crazy all the time." Skipper sighed and looked down at the floor. "Coffee just doesn't agree with me, I'm afraid." He looked genuinely heartbroken. "Anyway, it's just an example. My heartbeat shotgun is an application of Aether that I've come up with myself, and, being modest here, mastered. It's pretty much exclusive to me that way." Dragon frowned. Was he being underestimated? How's that? What's stopping me from doing it? As Skipper walked over to a rack of balls, he chuckled. Well, sure, I guess you could do it, but why would you? So that I can shoot invisible bullets out of my fingers? Fair enough. Skipper's obnoxious chuckle continued. But trying to do the same thing I do, the same way I do, is like... imagine I build a car, just for me, right? The right size, the right distance between the pedals, the works, right? Right? Dragon honestly wasn't sure if the man was going somewhere with this. Now, imagine instead of building your own car, you get yourself stretched out so that you can fit in mine. It makes more sense just to build something that suits you, right? Oh, I love this, because this is finally the in-universe explanation for, like, the Aether abilities that you've mentioned to me way in the past. Dragon considered it. That did make sense. If nothing else, he didn't want to be stuck with an ability called Heartbeat Shotgun for the rest of his life. Fair enough, Dragon. This is so sad. Poor Skipper, dude.
Getting roasted.
Skipper's a shonen protagonist and a fucking seinen series. So, he said, still with his hand to his chin, how do I know what would suit me? Skipper grinned, taking a white ball from the rack and spinning it on his prosthetic finger. Dragon couldn't help but be impressed. He'd only gotten the thing very recently, and he was already capable of fine movements like that. Well, Skipper said, flicking the ball up and catching it with his other hand, how about we find out? After clearing up the room, moving the exercise equipment and benches off to the sides, leaving a great expanse of space, Skipper and Dragon took their positions on either side of the gymnasium. I'm actually interested here because... I wonder, because it seems like most people only have one or two techniques, so I imagine it'll take him a long time to come up with a technique, unless they play it off like, because he's a cogitant, he can do it so quickly. But I'm kind of interested. Or maybe it's just the mastering of the technique that takes forever. It's easy to, just like how it's easy to come up with a concept, but to actually write it or make something out of it is a lot of work. I'm very interested in how this is, like, portrayed. Sorry, I got caught up in that. Do you want to take over for a bit?
Yeah, sure. Dern watched from the sidelines, looking increasingly regretful about ever letting Skipper into this room. The rules are simple. I
love it when you do it.
Said Skipper, stretching. If the ball hits the wall behind me, that's a point to you. If it hits the wall behind you, that's a point to me. You can use A for all you want, but you can't attack the other player. You can hear constantly trying to restrain the voice a little bit.
Do you want me to just read the Skipper lines and you can do the rest for your part?
At this point, so.
Best out of 3 wins. Sound good? Don't worry, I won't go all out against you, kiddo.
Dragon grinned, but he knew the annoyance was clear on his face all the same. Cocky bastard.
Oh?
Skipper passed the ball from hand to hand for a moment.
You want me to go all out then? Just for a second? I'll go all out, just this once.
Dragon pursed his lips. He knew there was probably no way he could beat Skipper if he was given the games all, but observing the man in action could be useful all the same. He didn't even really care about winning games, so there was no problem there either. Go on then, Dragon said.
Sure thing.
There was a sound like a cannon going off, and a sudden gust of air pressure that forced Dragon to squeeze his eyes shut.
Oh my god, this is like All Might training me to Rhea in the beginning.
A chorus of alarmed shouts rang out from the onlookers. When Dragon finally managed to open his eyes again, he saw that the ball was no longer in Skipper's hand. Dragon blurted out, tongue still numb from the cold air.
Nani?
Skipper nodded to a spot behind him. A smug smile playing across his lips. Dragon whirled around to follow the older man's gaze. The ball was half embedded in the walls, steam still rising from its surface from the speed and force of its travel. Stray green sparks of aether played across it, most likely the only thing that prevented the ball from being destroyed on impact. Deer, standing not far away, stared at the ball with wide eyes. He opened his mouth to say something, but clearly thought better of it.
That's one to me!
Skipper called out.
You want me to keep going all out, kiddo?
Turning back to Space Skipper, Dragon swallowed his pride and nodded. If he wasn't even at the, should be shook his head there. If he wasn't even at the level where he could see the ball move, then watching Skipper in action wouldn't do him much good.
Nice, nice!
Skipper said, and the strength of the emerald aether around him lessened considerably.
You throw this time, by the way, since I scored the last point. That's a new rule I just thought of. You like it?
Dragon didn't answer. Instead, he walked over to the ball, stuck into the wall, and with a burst of his own blue aether, pulled it free, and threw scraps of concrete snapping free as well. Deal up Tom.
I love how strong Skipper is that Dragon has to use his Aether just to get the ball out from the aftermath of the attack.
Deal up Tom with the spur, ensuing property damage. If he was going to hit the wall, he needed a strategy. Even with Skipper limiting the amount of power he used, Dragon was pretty sure he was outclassed in terms of both strength and speed. If this was a strictly physical contest, he'd be screwed. But he had his mind. He could think his way past Skipper's defense. He could use facts and logic.
Hell yeah, Dragon, let's go! I love this. Someone else mentioned this before, another fan of Aetheral Space, but I really love, like, the thinky protagonists that rely on their, like, big brain instead of just being super strong.
When Skipper had thrown the ball the first time, there'd been that explosive sound. That must have been his heartbeat shotgun used to propel the shots. But he hadn't pointed in the direction of the wall or done that stupid finger gun. Instead, when Dragon had seen him throw the ball, he'd just thrust his palm forwards. So he didn't necessarily have to use his fingers to fire shots. He could use his palms as well.
I love that he was just doing it to be flashy the whole time with the finger guns.
In that case, why did he do the pointing in those other cases? The answer was obvious. A wider exit area dispersed the force more, made it less effective. So a palm thrust would be a weaker form of attack.
Oh my god, that was his weak form of attack and Dragon couldn't even see it.
As he reached the starting position, Dragon's eyes split the Skipper's in the
Dragon's back! Little brother, impress me!
He bit his lip. He knew that Skipper had already grown pretty accustomed to the new prosthetic, but could he use it to fire off heartbeat shotguns yet? Excuse me? It was possible, but not certain. Dragon would have to be bet on that. He'd execute his assault from what might be Skipper's blind spot then, and delay any response the man could give by a fraction of a second.
I kind of like the idea of... I kind of like the idea of Dragon's ability, whether it's a consistent ability or like an adaptive one, that it relies on him analyzing his opponent for weaknesses or flaws and then exploiting those with like a precision skill. It's kind of neat.
It wasn't much of a plan, but it was the best Dragon had. The rest had to be improvisation. Skipper cocked his head.
You gonna stand there all day, or...?
Dragon launched himself off the ground with Aether-infused legs, propelling himself forward with the ball clutched in both hands. Like he planned, he aimed for Skipper's left side, intended to charge past the man and launch a shot in the moment where he couldn't respond. But Skipper didn't respond in the way Dragon had expected. Instead of moving his good arm to launch a heartbeat shotgun at the ball, he instead raised his left leg as if he were about to launch a devastating kick. Dragon's eyes widened. Shit.
Actually, it says Dragon's eyes widened.
Shit. He can fire them with his feet too. The resident gunman shot off a heartbeat shotgun and ran out. But in the same moment, Dragon kicked off the ground with all he had, launching himself high up into the air, uncomfortably close to the ceiling. The heartbeat shotgun sailed past where Dragon had been standing, slamming into the wall behind him instead. Shit. The jump had allowed him to escape the attack, Dragon knew that, but it also left him vulnerable to his inevitable follow-up. On the ground, he could move to avoid if needed, but his movement was much more limited in the air. At the most, he could twist his body to try and avoid shots.
I fucking love this visual of like Dragon hovering in the air in slow motion as like Skipper's moving his good arm towards him.
He couldn't forget though that Skipper's target was the ball, not him. He was only in danger of getting hit so long as he was holding the ball. The answer was obvious then. Dragon hurled the ball towards Skipper's wall with all the strength his Aether could muster, and the ball went shooting forwards like a blue streak of light. The ball would only take a second or so to strike Skipper's wall, but Dragon already knew it wouldn't make it. This was just to get out Dragon's hands long enough for him to land.
Dragon's hands, actually. Dragon was tag teaming with him.
It's getting old.
Little brother, catch!
Sure enough, the second heartbeat shotgun struck the ball just before it hit the wall, and the force instead sent it bouncing around the room at blinding speeds, somehow missing both Skipper's and Dragon's walls, before landing with a resounding smack in Skipper's hand.
Too bad, so sad.
Skipper grinned. The bastard still hadn't moved from where he started, Dragon growled. Skipper passed the ball from hand to hand, eyes looking down at it.
Going in with just one plan and then just falling back onto improvisation when that doesn't work? That's no good, Mr. Hadrian. You gotta have more plans waiting in the wings.
Dragon glared. He really didn't like people telling him what he was thinking, especially when they were right. Skipper raised the ball over his head, the grin on his face intensifying sharply.
How about I show you how it's done? Huh?
He didn't even give Dragon a moment to prepare. The bang of a heartbeat shotgun rang out, and again the ball disappeared from Skipper's hand. Dragon wouldn't let the man get away with the same move twice, though. Without even seeing the ball, Dragon launched himself off to the side, directly in front of the skipper in terms of direction, bracing himself with his Aether as much as he could. A leap of faith. It paid off. Something smacked into Dragon's stomach with incredible force. If he hadn't been infusing his body with Aether, Dragon was sure that shot would have taken him out of commission for quite a while.
I'm literally imagining like the blood coming out of his throat, like in the fucking every anime ever, as he zoom flies to the wall. I caught it though, Skipper. I caught it.
Indeed, even with his Aether defense, Dragon was forced to gasp as the air was pushed out of his lungs, and with the momentum the ball was still carrying, he was sent flying backwards towards the wall. That was fine. That was okay. With the angle he was flying at, the ball touched against his stomach, hitting the ball would mean his loss. The rule said he'd lose if the ball hit the wall. There was no rule against Dragon himself hitting the wall. So long as he made sure he hit the wall back first, he could still retaliate. He poured all the Aether he had into his back, making sure that nothing would break when he struck the wall. Well, except the wall itself.
I have a theory here. I have a theory that Skipper's gonna be, like, semi-proud of him for this, but he's gonna be, like, still, it's not helpful if you risk your own body and life to make the plan work. Or something along those lines. Because that is something Dragon basically did with Samael, too, right? He came through, but only by putting his life and others at risk. He needs to get good enough that he doesn't need to, like, use his own life as a gambit. Granted, not that his life was in danger with this game, but you know what I mean? That's my prediction.
Even with his protection, Dragon couldn't help feel a surge of pain when he finally hit his mark. And it was only the thought of how humiliating it would be that stopped him from rolling around on the floor and groaning. Legs shaking, he picked the ball up and began walking back towards Skipper. The man raised an impressed eyebrow.
I like your attitude, kiddo, he said. But I don't think this frontal assault is working out for you.
As Skipper said that, Dragon fell into a pile on the floor, seemingly confirming his statements. Skipper sighed, running his organic hand through his hair.
Ah, the enthusiasm of youth. Hold up, kid. I'll give you a hand.
Skipper took a step towards Dragon's prone form, and in that moment, Dragon struck. Instantly returning to a crouched position, he hurled the object in his hand with all his strength, infusing it with so much Aether that it looked more like a lance of blue light than anything else. It surged straight towards Skipper's wall, the sheer speed of its movement creating a holy screeching that filled the room. Skipper himself didn't meet a beat, though, and clearly he'd been expecting this. What the fuck is his ampersand doing in here? He'd partially been expecting this.
Actually, you should probably remove the comma from after beat and put it after though.
Oh yeah?
There you go.
And clearly he'd be partially expecting this. With what Dragon now recognised as twin heartbeat shotguns from the soles of his feet, Skipper launched himself off the ground and straight towards the projectile, reaching out and catching it as though it were plucking a leaf from a tree.
Like I said, kiddo,
Skipper said, landing and skidding to a halt with a squeak against the floor.
if you go on with just one plan, then you're screwed when...
His speech trailed off as he saw Dragon's face. He looked at Dragon's triumphant grin, frowned, then glanced down at the object in his hand. He wasn't holding the ball. He was holding one of Dragon's...
I knew it!
...crumpled into a sphere.
Fake out! Fake out! Fake out!
It was a gentle tap as the slow-moving ball tapped against the wall. Hit the ball against Skipper, behind Skipper. I'll say that.
I actually like tapped because it implies he like rolled it like people who do a bowling ball lamely.
Yeah, but I said it twice, so I'll change the second one.
Oh,
The man
yeah,
in the
that
ring
makes sense.
Raised his eyebrows, clearly impressed. Dragan staggered where he stood, legs shaking like a newborn deer. It doesn't matter how many plans you have, he panted, so long as your enemies never figure out what they are. Skipper nodded slowly.
Not bad, he chuckled. You got me. I think we're done here.
Dragan shook his head vehemently. No, we're one for one now. We still gotta... The boy collapsed into a heap, and Skipper chuckled ruefully.
That's what I thought. Dragon's growing, though. He's learning. One step beyond the person he was yesterday.
I defeated
I
my
love
weak
it.
past self.
That was a good training montage, because I feel like Dragon actually learned something from it. Good times. That was fun. I love how I said short and sweet, like this isn't a 9-page chapter, but that's how fast it went by. That was very entertaining. I like that a lot. And I usually don't like training like scenes, but I feel like that one got its point across. Dragon learned his thing. It didn't spend too long. The banter between them was also very nice. And it was also kind of cool to see Skipper at quote-unquote full power, even though the palm was a weaker version of the strike. Oh man, he's gonna fucking level a planet when he uses his full power or some shit. He'll be like, Dragon, did I ever tell you my last name?
No.
It's Aetheral Space. I'm Skipper. Aetheral Space.
My family created Aether.
It's been passed down for generations. That was really fun. I'm trying to think of a good question. It's hard to do one that's related to training without it being like a writing prompt rather than a question. So let me think. I know. We might have asked this before. I hope I didn't. I might have. But what do you think Dragon's new technique will be? Clearly, I had a theory about this before. I think it's going to be something misdirection related, like you did with Skipper just now. But I'm curious. And if I've already asked that before, as a backup question, what is Skipper's last name?
Well, what's his first name?
Skipper. That's all you need to know. No more questions. His first name is Aetheral and his last name is Space. Aether Jr., I'm so proud of you, son. Thanks, Bops.
You must protect Aether from the darkness.
You must bring balance to the Aether. Alright. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.